For decades, you've probably been told that getting strong is this super complicated thing, right? Like it's full of all these precise rules and formulas that feel more like rocket science than exercise. But what if most of that complexity was just noise? Well, today, we're diving into a massive new scientific consensus that is completely sweeping away all that clutter, and it's revealing a radically simpler and honestly a much more powerful truth about how to get strong. So here's the plan. We're going to start by looking at the old, kind of crazy rules that held so many people back. Then, we'll get into the groundbreaking new science that changes literally everything. We're going to separate the signal, the few things that actually matter for results, from all the noise. And we'll finish up with a clear new mission for your own training. All right, so first up, let's talk about the old way of thinking. You could almost call it the prison of complexity. These were the guidelines that, they meant well, but they ended up feeling super intimidating and just overwhelming for the average person. I mean, just get a load of this. The 2009 guidelines from the American College of Sports Medicine, if you follow them to the letter just for general fitness, they could demand up to 20 hours a week. 20 hours! That's basically a part-time job. For most of us, that's not just impractical, it's a complete non-starter. And this slide just perfectly shows the results of that thinking. Over on the left, you've got this impossible checklist of rigid rules. You've got to do this many sessions, this many sets, these reps, these exact rest periods. And on the right, you see what happens. Nearly 60% of American adults do zero muscle strengthening exercise. The whole search for the perfect physiological program actually became a massive barrier, scaring people away before they even had a chance to start. But here's the really good news. Things are changing, big time. There's a new scientific consensus emerging, and it offers a much simpler, way more empowering truth. And look, this isn't based on just one or two small studies. We are talking about a massive umbrella review. It's a synthesis of 137 different systematic reviews, covering, get this, over 30,000 participants. This is, without a doubt, the most comprehensive, most solid assessment of resistance training that has ever been done. It's a genuine paradigm shift. So what was the number one, most fundamental finding from all of this incredible research? It's just beautifully simple. Compared to doing absolutely nothing, any form of progressive resistance training works. It produces significant improvements across the board. So the main thing to remember is, just starting is a massive win. And what's really cool is how you apply that resistance. It doesn't matter nearly as much as we used to think. You can see it on the left here, whether you're doing bodyweight exercises at home, using elastic bands, hitting the machines at the gym, or lifting heavy barbells, they all work. The secret ingredient, as you can see on the right, is just mechanical tension. Bottom line, resistance is resistance. Okay, so if the specific tool you use isn't the most important thing, what is? Well, that brings us to the signal. The very few key variables that are the true drivers of getting you the results you want. The best way to think about it is like a sound engineer's mixing board. You've got a few key sliders, things like frequency, intensity, and volume, that you can adjust. Forget all the other complicated knobs and buttons. These core variables are really all you need to tune your training to hit your specific goals. For example, let's say your main goal is just pure maximal strength. The science is crystal clear. The signal is using heavier loads. We're talking over 80% of your 1-rep max, moving that weight through a full range of motion, and doing it at least twice a week. These are the inputs that are going to give you that specific output. But what about building muscle or hypertrophy? Well, here, the main driver is your total weekly volume. As you can see on this slide, there's a really clear dose-response relationship. The sweet spot for growth really kicks in at 10 or more sets per muscle group per week. Yeah, you can do more, but you'll eventually hit a point where you're not getting much more bang for your buck. And then for power, which is all about generating force quickly, the recipe is different again. This is about using more moderate loads, doing fewer total reps, and, this is the key, moving with intention and speed. The focus here is on velocity, not just lifting the heaviest thing you can. Okay, this next part is my absolute favorite because it's so liberating. We talked about the signal. Now let's talk about the noise. This is all the stuff you can officially give yourself permission to stop worrying about. It's time to free yourself from all that old fitness dogma. So let's start with a huge one. This is a belief that pretty much everyone who's ever lifted weights holds as gospel. To get results, do you have to train to absolute muscular failure on every single set? Well, according to this massive review, the answer is a resounding no. Just take a look at this graph. The blue line, which represents getting stronger and building muscle, it kind of flattens out when you have about 2 to 3 good reps left in the tank. But that red line, which is fatigue and injury risk, it shoots up like a rocket as you get closer to total failure. So the big takeaway is that the best results come from training close to failure, not to failure. So this signal versus noise idea really wraps everything up nicely. Over on the left, you've got that handful of things that truly matter: mechanical tension, progressive effort, weekly volume, and just being consistent. These are the real drivers. And on the right, that's all the noise. Things like training on unstable surfaces, what time of day you work out, all those fancy set structures like drop sets, and even that endless debate between machines and free weights. The review found that for most people, this stuff has no significant, consistent impact on strength or muscle growth. You can safely just ignore it. So, what does this all mean for you? Well, it leads us to a brand new training mandate, one that's all about individualization over obsessing about optimization. This graph right here really captures the entire new philosophy perfectly. The biggest, most life-changing health and fitness gains don't come from tweaking an already great program. They come from going from 0 to 1, from being sedentary to just doing something. All that complicated dial turning you see in the optimization zone, that's really just for elite athletes trying to squeeze out the final 1 or 2%. It is not a prerequisite for getting results. So here it is, your clear, actionable takeaway. Step 1, remove the barriers. Throw out all those rigid, intimidating rules. 2, apply the minimal effective dose. For most people, that means training just 2 days a week with a high degree of effort. And 3, save all that complex optimization stuff only for when it's truly required, like for very advanced athletes. And in the end, it all just comes down to this. This one quote perfectly sums up the entire paradigm shift. The best resistance training program is the one the individual will actually do. Forget what's physiologically perfect on paper. The science is finally telling us what smart coaches have known for years. Consistency is king. The best program on earth is the one you can actually stick with.